Lane found the doll at the very bottom of a rain-soaked cardboard box at the edge of the Saturday market. It was made of fine porcelain, dressed in tattered blue silk, but it was the face that caught her eye. Most antique dolls looked solemn or pensive, but this one wore a wide, toothy grin that stretched from ear to ear. The shopkeeper didn't even ask for a price. He simply waved his hand, his eyes darting away, and told her to take it far from his stall. When Lane brought the doll home, her younger brother Bram didn't share her excitement. He stood in the doorway of her bedroom, refusing to step inside. He pointed a trembling finger at the doll's face. "It looks like it's eating a secret," Bram whispered. Lane laughed, placing the doll on her bedside table. She told him he was being silly, but as she spoke, she noticed the doll's glass eyes seemed to catch the light in a way that made the smile look even wider. That night, the air in the room felt heavy and cold. Lane woke up in the middle of the night, feeling a strange tightness in her cheeks. She sat up and reached for her lamp. In the dim glow, she saw the doll. It hadn't moved from the table, but its head was now tilted sharply to the side, staring directly at her. Lane tried to frown, but her facial muscles felt stiff, as if an invisible hand were pulling the corners of her mouth upward. By morning, Lane's face was stuck in a permanent, painful grin. She couldn't speak clearly, her words coming out in muffled hums. Bram found her in the hallway, clutching her cheeks. He looked from his sister to the doll, which Lane was now carrying in her arms. The doll's smile seemed brighter, the porcelain glowing with a fresh, rosy hue that hadn't been there the day before. Bram realized then that the doll wasn't just smiling, it was taking. Searching for a way to break the spell, Lane examined the doll closely. Tucked deep into a fold of the blue silk dress, she felt something hard. She pulled out a tiny, intricate silver key tied to the doll's waist with a thin, black thread. There was no keyhole on the doll itself, but Lane remembered the old, locked jewelry cabinet in the attic that their parents had warned them never to touch. Lane and Bram hurried to the attic, the floorboards groaning under their feet. The air was thick with dust and the smell of old paper. In the corner sat the cabinet, a tall piece of dark wood with carvings of weeping willow trees. Bram held a flashlight steady while Lane reached for the lock. As the silver key slid into the keyhole, a low, melodic humming began to vibrate through the floor. The cabinet creaked open, revealing a single shelf. On it lay a stack of old, yellowed photographs. Lane picked one up. It showed a girl from 100 years ago, sitting in a chair and holding the very same doll. But in the photo, the doll's face was blank and expressionless, while the girl wore the same terrifying, wide grin that Lane now felt stretched across her own face. A sudden thud echoed behind them. Lane and Bram spun around. The doll, which Lane had left leaning against a trunk, was now sitting upright in the center of the attic floor. It had moved 3 feet on its own. Its glass eyes were fixed on the open cabinet, and its porcelain fingers seemed to twitch. Bram grabbed Lane's arm, pulling her back as the doll's smile began to grow. Stretching so far the porcelain started to crack at the corners. "The key!" Bram shouted. "It doesn't belong to the cabinet, it belongs to the secret." Lane realized the cabinet wasn't a prison, it was a diary. She grabbed the doll and saw a tiny, microscopic seam beneath its chin. She forced the silver key into the seam and turned it hard to the left. There was a sound like a heavy deadbolt clicking into place, and the doll's mouth snapped shut into a flat, thin line. The tension in Lane's face vanished instantly. She could finally frown, cry, and sigh with relief. Bram helped her wrap the doll back in its tattered silk and lock it inside the willow-carved cabinet, hiding the key in the furthest corner of the attic. As they walked back downstairs, Lane looked out the window and saw the shopkeeper from the market. He was walking past their house, and for the first time, he was the one who was finally smiling.